This is a huge announcement. Tickets are on sale now for my big Come Back and Leave concert. I got in touch with all my old musician friends from back in the day when I was a professional musician. And I'm delighted to announce that on April the 28th, we're going to be playing at the Roadhouse in Sutton Coldfield as a little fundraiser concert to raise some funds for our round the world sailing trip. I'll be performing songs from throughout my history as a musician, including numbers by Brad Paisley, Joe Satriani, and many, many more. And I'll be joined by some of my favourite musicians, including Paul Dark, Marie Black, Dan Clark, James Revitt, Rob Wheeler, Rob Day-Smith, Alan Robinson, Danny Batoy, Maurice Hipkiss, and legendary international fiddle player Billy Thompson. This really is my dream lineup. I'm so excited to play with these guys, and it's a concert not to be missed. Going on at the moment as we're preparing to set sail in just a few weeks' time. I've had to learn how to time travel because I've been here working on the cockpit enclosure. I'm here working on a whole load of stuff. And I'm over here painting out the newly repaired keel box. So what is happening with the cockpit enclosure and why isn't it on the boat yet? Well, when I fiberglassed round the lip on the underside, you know, the underside of this round the edge, I just didn't do a very good job, and you can see the weave of the cloth through the resin and I hate it. So I'm going to sand that off and redo it. Well, that went quite nicely, but it took a very, very long time. I rushed it last time and I did it in a couple of hours, and because I was rushing it, I just did a crap job and I was really disappointed with it. So I've sanded that smooth. It took hours and hours and hours of sanding, and then I've reglassed it with more biax and peel ply. So it should be a really, really nice finish now when I come to peel the peel ply off. But there's still a lot going on Ocean Melody, and there's still a lot going on Steel Melody. Speaking of Steel Melody, I'm back here and I'm going to try and paint out the rest of the keel box that I repaired last time. Let me show you the finish that this Terracotta gets. Obviously, I'm still working on it, but just let me show you the finish that it gets. It's perfect for painting on. Look. That texture there. So all those tiny little teeth get all the paint, all the rust, all the little bits of imperfections out of the steel, and provide the perfect surface for painting on. Exactly the right amount of level of keying. Again, I'm using the Jotun 87 Red, the 049. It's a super tough paint. They use it on oil rigs and shipping tankers and all kinds of stuff. And I'm using the winter grade hardener because look, it's raining again. It's on the way here, I think it was 1.8 degrees. It's sleet and snow at home. But this stuff, I think here it's about 8 or 10 degrees. So it's a little bit warmer here by the coast, but it's bucketing it down with rain. What you could describe as less than ideal conditions, and this is the perfect paint to use in less than ideal conditions. Jotun 87 049 Red with the winter grade hardener, and I'm using the Jotun thinners number 17. We are not sponsored by Jotun. We buy this stuff with our own money and it's very expensive. For the last few weeks I've been using my mate's pickup truck. You've probably seen it, the people that we're house sitting for. But I've been terrified to get paint on my clothes and get it in his very expensive, very nice Nissan Navara. So, although I don't really want to get paint all over the inside of our car either. Our car's worth a lot less money, so I'm slightly more relaxed. Although it's been very nice to have the pickup and very handy. It terrifies me driving somebody else's expensive vehicle when you're doing dirty work like this. You will be pleased to know that painting the keel box is not like painting the chain locker. I'm not going to gas myself out. It's practically outdoors. The keel box is completely open to the fresh air. So I'm not going to have the same issues of nearly killing myself with the fumes this time. I am going to wear a mask though. Don't panic. Because I learnt my lesson last time. And even in a well-ventilated area, a mask isn't a stupid idea, is it? Right, I'm going to... Because this is Sailing Melody, I'm going to use my traditional 1-inch brush. Don't worry, just for the detail work, and then I'm going to roll it. Let me just explain something. This Jotun paint, it says very clearly on the instructions, the first coat you either have to brush it on or use HVLP, high volume, low pressure spray, to get the thickness. Loads of people comment and say, why do you not roll that paint on? Because so far all we've been doing is the first coat on each one. Now if you roll the first coat of this stuff, it's not thick enough. You have to either brush it or HVLP spray. You can't spray in a yard around other boats like this, so that's why we've been brushing. But now this is the second coat for a lot of this, so I'm going to be rolling a lot of this on. you want to have a look at what it looks like? There's so many reflections. It's a bit of a funny day. The sun's coming out at a funny angle, so it might not be the best view, but we'll try. That is now our fully repaired keel box. Look at that. It's all fully repaired. It's all fully epoxied. There's the new flange that I put in last week, and it's all painted out in several coats now. I think that was the 5th coat of epoxy that it's had. I'll do another coat along the top, because as you've just seen, I cleaned this up to bare metal and that's now had 1 coat of epoxy. So I'll do at least 1 more, maybe more. My welding kit is currently at home. And this, you may have seen it before, this is the plate that goes at the aft end of the keel box to seal it all up. This is the one I was modifying last week, and it's the tube that the cable goes down that lifts the keel up and down comes through here, and these nuts and bolts are rusty, so I've put the brand new ones in the flange. I've got to put these new ones in here, and there's an odd hole in this that I presume was from some long, dim and distant historical modification to the boat. I'm going to weld that up because they've plugged that up just with a nut and a washer and a load of sealant. Talking about sealant, I arrived back at Ocean Melody the other day, and hanging in our cockpit was a carrier bag. And in the carrier bag there was a little note that said, "Hope these come in handy for you, Mark and Lorraine, Grand Slam." In there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tubes of sealant. Thank you so much, Mark and Lorraine from Grand Slam. That's what, even if they're not used for the keel box, they'll be used for something on the boat. Flipping heck. Round port lights and hatches and all sorts. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, guys. Now, earlier on, I made the bold claim that I'm learning time traveling, and this is kind of proof of that, because what you're about to see now is me making something that I don't actually refer to or even plan until later on in the episode. So if you want to know what it is I'm making now, you're going to have to watch to the end of the episode to see what the heck this is all about. When we set off in Ocean Melody in just a few weeks' time now, we fully accept the fact that the boat won't be 100% finished, and our intention is to work on her as we go. So if you're thinking, once Andy and Melissa and the family start sailing and they're not doing boat jobs anymore, I won't be interested in the channel because I'm more into the boat jobs. Trust me, there will be a lot of boat jobs. However, there are some critical things that need doing before we set off. Things that are, you know, big safety issues, and one of them is the diesel tank issue. We sailed Ocean Melody back from Dartmouth last year with the day tank that she's got, and let me just explain the situation. In Ocean Melody's keel there is a massive diesel tank. We're not sure of the exact capacity, but we're going to try and find that out. But the engine runs off a 40-litre day tank, and when we asked Doug, the previous owner, about that, he explained.
When the guys left Antigua,
Yes, yeah.
I wasn't there when they left, but anyway, they left. 2 days out, they were hit with the tail end of a hurricane. I forget the name of it now. And they closed up shop. I mean, I'll tell you, it must have been, I mean, I've done a lot of sailing. It must have been pretty horrendous, I think.
They just hove to and shut the hatches and sit it out.
Yeah, they shut everything, they went down below, shut everything up for 48 hours. Anyway, the next thing I knew was when they got to the Azores. He said, well, water's ingressed the fuel tank. So obviously the engine didn't work. I mean, there was enough fuel in separate cans and whatever. The reason I put the other day tank in was that the engine let me down one day in really rough weather. And the lift pump, we concluded that the lift pump wasn't maybe strong enough on the engine to lift the fuel out of the keel, which you were talking about almost 7 feet. I mean, she draws 7 feet. It was just too far, so I put that tank in for 2 reasons. One, you could top it up or fill it up from inside the boat, rather than if you're in bad seaway and you need to put some fuel, you could have water slopping about everywhere.
And for coastal cruising, that's completely fine. And you know, even if we ended up going with that day tank, 40 or 50 litres, it's not great, but it's enough to get you, you know, several hours. And most of the time when you're sailing, you're not motoring the whole time. So we are hoping, though, to recommission the long-range diesel tank and keep the day tank as well. The reason that we want to do that is we want the ability to pump diesel from the big tank through a series of filters into the small tank and then run the engine off the small tank, and then we know that we're never going to have problems with diesel bug or contamination from the large tank getting into the engine. So let me show you quickly where the tanks are. The big diesel tank is under this bit of floor here, under the companionway. I'm going to lift that up in a minute. The small day tank is this one. So this is the tank that the engine runs off most of the time. It's nearly empty actually, we need to fill it up, but it's got enough in for what we need to do. So the idea is to connect up the old tank, find out, you know, what the issue with it is, connect it to this one with some sort of electric pump eventually, and be able to run the engine off this, but bring fuel up from the big diesel tank to fill this one as required. Now, we have a lot of people come and help us on this channel, as you know, Jonathan and Timothy and Andrew and Nigel and lots of people, and some people like being on camera and some don't. I've got an old friend with me today helping me look at this and just sort of ascertain what the problems are with the big diesel tank and why it got seawater into it. He's not particularly keen to be on camera, so there's going to be a bit of filming, but I'm going to try and avoid putting the camera in his face because he's like, don't point that thing at me. Right, let's get the floor up and see what we can actually see down there. So we can put that. We need to put this out of the way somewhere, don't we? We're just going to cover up Melissa's new upholstery before we start work, because we're likely to get a bit grubby, and I think Sailing Melody involved in homicide would make a good clickbaity type thumbnail, and it might get us quite a lot of views. I'm just not sure I'm prepared to take the risk. Right, so I've lifted up the floorboards here, the sole boards. There's the battery bay. Eventually I'm going to strap those batteries down and put stuff to stop them moving around when we're underway. But here is the big diesel tank. It's grubby down here because it's full of sawdust where I've been doing woodwork and sanding. But this lid here is the reason that there was the problem with water ingress into this diesel tank when they took the wave over the companionway. Obviously that was all bolted down, and it has a rubber seal around the edge. I think the way that the water got into the diesel tank was it was sloshing around in here and got in round the seal. But we're going to empty that, give this all a clean, reseat the seal around the top, bolt it down really tight, and then come back in a week and see if there's any rainwater or condensation accumulated in there again. Right, cleaning phase 1 has been established. There's the tank itself, which is all black and sludgy inside, and it comes through to here under the battery bay. But these are the pickups, these are the feeds. So I imagine there's 2 pipes that go down to the bottom of the tank. Is that right, Ian? That pick up the diesel. One is a return, and one is a breather. And while we're here today, we want to try and give the tank itself a proper clean, because as you know, I've emptied the rainwater and stuff out of it before now, but I've never really given it a thorough clean. It's going to be very, very tricky to do though. Do you want to have a look inside the tank? Yep, that's disgusting. That looks like a little bit of cracked fiberglass in the top corner there. You can see the filler and the vent for the tank, but look at all that crud. I'm going to have to get all of that off. Absolutely vile. That's all just mushy, horrible water at the bottom of the tank. Ich, ich, ich. I might have done something wrong here. We've got a mop bucket and I've put a load of fairy liquid. We've got the tank empty. I've put a load of fairy liquid in the mop bucket. I'm boiling some water, and then I've got a battery jet washer. We used the wet and dry vac to empty the dregs out of the bottom of that tank. But I'm just going to put some, excuse me Ian, I'm in my way. I'm just going to put boiling water. Oh, that was nearly close. Boiling water in there. Now Ian reckons this is going to be a disaster because it's going to foam up and we're just going to end up with bubbles coming out the top of the tank. Let me put some more water in this. I'll boil another kettle. I reckon two kettles of boiling water. Hang on. Here we are. 2 kettles of boiling water. I'm not sure actually if that little jet washer is going to enjoy this very much. But of course when we empty it all, we're emptying it all into buckets and taking it to the proper disposal place over at the other side. It is nice and clean down there now. You know, I painted all that out in the silver and it's actually made it, you know, possible to get it reasonably clean, hasn't it? You're not talking, Ian, with your Wolverhampton accent.
I'm doing my best.
So, what do I need now? I need this here. This here is my battery jet washer. It's like a sort of mini Karcher, but it's just a cheap one, a works one. And I've got it picking up hot water with fairy liquid in it, washing up liquid. And I'm going to try to blast out the insides of this tank. We're going to need a light though in there as well, aren't we? I'm doing this a bit blind. You can't see a thing, can you, in there? Right, we're out of water. We're going to need some more water.
Okay.
So let's let the dust settle, or the steam settle.
You were right, it didn't foam up.
It didn't foam up? It's fine, isn't it? The question is, has it made a blind bit of difference? Next thing is to use this wire brush, which is like a patio brush cleaner, on a stick to loosen all the grime and filth on the inside of the tank. Although we've used, like I say, that detergent and the jet washer and hot water. So I think we're going to get there. That's the way to do it, isn't it? I've got a little wiggly light. This is an industrial endoscope and it's got a tiny little camera with an LED light on that shows you this, look, on the screen, and I can put an SD card in there to record it, and it means that we can gaffer tape or tape this to our scrubby stick, and we can make sure that, you know, well, we have some chance of being able to see what we're actually scrubbing, because at the minute the aperture to see in through is only tiny and it's very difficult to see what we're actually doing. Right, the very irritating thing is I thought I'd got SD cards with me to put in this camera, but I haven't got any with me. So I tried the one from the GoPro, but it wanted to format it. I was like, no, don't format the footage, that's everything I've filmed today. So we're just going to do it without the camera, but without the SD card. So you won't be able to see it other than what I show you on the screen of this. Can you see what you're doing there, Ian?
Just.
Is that going to be helpful for scrubbing sludge? Or not especially?
No, I don't think it's going to dirty the lens of the little camera. It's very corroded, that pipe. Can you see it there?
Is that, well, in which case, do we absolutely need to take those pipes out and replace all the fittings in order to recommission this tank and make it reliable?
You can see that they're copper, can't you?
Yes, you can.
There's 3 of them there.
Well, certainly we picked out a piece of one of them that had broken off, didn't we?
Yeah. Coming up towards the top of the tank. Some gunge between them.
Is that at the top of the tank, is it, that we're looking at?
Coming up high right to the top here, close to where they come through the tank.
See, my feeling is, I know that they're really nice fittings, but my feeling is that maybe we should withdraw those and replace those copper tubes and the fittings, even if it means that we have to, you know, drill them out, put some new fittings in and glass them back in. Do you know what I mean? Would you trust those pipes, those pickup pipes and those fittings for a long distance sail?
No, definitely not, because we know that they're corroded.
So let's get them out. Even if they break off, it doesn't matter. We'll break off, drill them out and replace them. So that's a piece that's actually broken off one of the pipes in the tank, and that was at the bottom of the tank. So if that's broke, if that's any indication of the condition of the rest of them, then we need to replace them. Oh, blimey. I can only stay there for about 5 seconds because I'm leaning on my stomach, so it's stopping me from breathing. It's called positional asphyxiation. No, it's a real thing, you know.
Is it?
Positional asphyxiation is, yeah. When the part of your paramedic training, that is. Oh, right, hang on, can't breathe. Because all my body weight's on my stomach. It's pushing my big fat belly up into my lungs. And I
didn't want to say that.
And now you're making me laugh. They're not moving. They're coming undone.
It's because I was more delicate than you.
Has that gone in the bilge? Has it gone in the bilge? Ah, brilliant.
Yes. Where's my hooker duck stick?
Brilliant, just try harder.
Doing my best.
Just work harder.
Is there a hole at the back of it?
I hope not, otherwise it'd sink. Oh, you mean the spanner, not the boat? Yes, there is a hole at the back of the spanner.
I feel like I'm failed. I can see the hole in the back of the spanner.
Hey, look at that.
Can you go a bit with your hand? Yeah, right. Let's have another go with this one.
Do you want to tie a bit of string to your spanner in case it goes in the bilge again? God, it's just impossible to get any kind of purchase or leverage on it, isn't it? It's just going a millimetre at a time.
I don't think you're grunting enough.
More grunt. Come on.
I'm almost tempted to. I'm going to give you a go now.
All right. Okay.
Do you want me to unscrew it, or do you want to?
Yeah, go on. You do it. That's what you're here for. Oh, that's the one that's broken off, though, isn't it?
Yeah, or it was the spill back, and this one didn't have a pipe on it.
Right. Well, the next one should be easier because you've got more clearance. That is number 3 of 4. We've got number 4 of 4 out, which didn't have a pipe on at all, but there was a piece of broken pipe in the tank. This is 3 of 4, and it actually looks okay. It's incredibly dirty, and we've trashed the threads on this, so we're going to be replacing this fitting anyway, but they needed to come out to be inspected, and yeah, I'm quite pleased. That's it's just a piece of copper pipe brazed onto this brass fitting, isn't it?
Yep.
So, next one. Right, so we've got all the fittings out the tank, which we're going to replace, so we've trashed them, which is great because it means they're not tempted to reuse them. We'll get some of these, we'll make some of these up actually. 2 of them had got long pickup tubes on, like so, which went all the way down to the bottom of the tank, but the pipe work was okay, but old and could have done with replacing anyway, and 2 of them didn't. So one would have been a breather and one would have been the back feed, wouldn't it, from the engine? The return from the spillback, sorry, yeah, from the engine. So that's great. What we're now going to do is carry on cleaning the tank, seal it all up, seal up those 4 holes, seal up the lid, and then walk away and leave it. And we'll come back to this in 2 or 3 weeks' time when I open it up to see if there's any water got into there. Mission report. Right, we have cleaned and cleaned and cleaned and cleaned and cleaned the inside of that tank. Oh, light's gone off. I'm going to be doing more cleaning on this tank before we recommission it finally. So today is about finding out where the water is getting in. We think we know it's just through that lid, but have a look at the inside of the tank now. Believe it or not, that is actually cleaner than when we started. You can sort of see where we've had some effect on the tank. The bottom of the tank looks a bit cleaner, but getting access to those side walls is just impossible, and up underneath the lid like that. Don't know how we're going to do it, but we've got to do it somehow. So rest assured, this tank is not yet as clean as it will be before we start putting diesel back into it. Oh my goodness. Now obviously it's still wet in there from where we've been cleaning, but it's starting to dry already. You can see the dry patches, and there was 1 or 2 drips coming down, but they're just drips from the wetness in the tank from where we've been cleaning, so I'm not worried about that. What I want to do now is clean up the flange around the lid that goes on, and refit those the fittings for the pickup pipes and what have you, just loosely with some sealant around them, even just some normal silicone for now, because I just want to know if we've blocked up all of those places that we think water could get in, like the lid and those pickups. And when I come back in a week or so's time, if there is water in there, then it's clearly getting in somewhere else. But at least we're doing this like a process of elimination. So that's what I'm going to do next, is just clean up around the mating surfaces and put those lids and fittings back on, and then hope for the best. The lid that was on the top of the tank had got this on, and it had got like an extra filler point. There's a filler on deck that we can use to fill the diesel tank, but they'd obviously installed this at some point with a piece of tubing. I'm not putting that one in, but all the lids on all the tanks in the boat are the same size and shape, so this one should fit. I'll check in a minute, but I'm going to clean this one up and seal it down with butyl, because then I can take it off easily next time. I've decided I'm not going to put these back in because I want to take these away and have new ones made up with the pickup pipes made up. So I'm going to plug the holes with butyl as well, because I don't want to fit these back because I'll only have to come back to the boat to take them out again, to take them away to a machine shop to have new pickup pipes made. Just giving the tank a last dry out with a mop to make sure it's, I mean, it's not going to be bone dry because we've been spraying water in there with the jet washer and mop, you know, so it's not going to be bone dry in there. But the question is, like I say, in a couple of weeks, is whether we come back and it's got 6 inches of water in there, not 6 millimetres. Not quite as easy. Oh, there you go, that's it.
Not tightening these down, I'm just putting a slight nip on them, that's all.
Yeah, just enough to be
just to hold us
reasonably certain that the water can't get in, can't pour in through that point. So that's all sealed down. They're pretty sealed down. Well, Bob's your uncle. We're just putting a bit of butyl tape around some of the bilge pipe pump holes, because the bilge pump pipe holes, because there's also water coming down the mast, which is normal in a keel-stepped boat, and most of it runs into the saloon bilge and gets pumped out, but some of it is actually making its way down here through the little holes where the bilge pump pipes are, and making its way down into the battery bay and the engine bay from there. It's just, you know, it's boats, isn't it? We're tracing all these leaks and gradually fixing them, and for now we're just blocking them up with butyl to see where water ends up pooling. But on to something else. I want to make a collar to go around the top of the mast. I've already done the ceiling slats, or the deck head slats to be precise, but you can see our vinyl trim around the mast stops short because I want to make a nice wooden collar to go around the top, and to start with I've got to make a template for that. And to make that template I'm going to use this profiler. It's got lots of little teeth, so you can push it up against stuff and it will assume the shape of that which you press it up against. I've got my paper diagram made, we've got all the correct curves. I know that my piece of wood has got to be at least 10 mil and a maximum of 40, because if it's more than 40 it won't fit between the mast and the bulkhead, so that's great. And the timber I'm going to use is this white oak, which is the exact right thickness. I've got some beautiful planed white oak which will do the job just perfectly. And yeah, I'll make it in 2 halves so it goes on either side of the mast like a collar that kind of clamps together. The other thing I want to make while it's not raining is a template for a plinth for the anchor windlass. Now, the anchor windlass is flat on the underside, but the deck has got a curve to it, a camber to it, so the anchor windlass has never really sat flat down on the deck. I've just had it kind of sat on a piece of rubber and bolted down. So I want to make a nice wooden plinth which takes up that curve in the deck, which is great for water runoff, but it makes it difficult to bolt stuff to it because it's not flat. So I'm going to make a template for that as well. it's very unlikely you can see this, but that there is the shape of my plinth. I'm going to raise this bit here around the hose pipe so that water is less likely, because at the minute there's nothing to stop water just pouring down the hose pipe. That was a temporary thing when we sailed back up, but I'm going to raise that, and I'm going to put a stainless steel tube, 50mm tube in there as well, to guide the, you know, stop water going down there, and a cap. So that's my template, and the camber on the fore and aft sections are just almost not there, but they are there. So along with everything else that's going on Ocean Melody and Still Melody and back at the workshop, we are sort of getting there, along with the diesel tanks. Speaking of the diesel tanks, let's have a very quick look to see if there's any water accumulated. Bear in mind, it's only 2 days later, so if anything much is in there, I'll be really upset. I've got the lid off. Let's have a look inside. I'm expecting there to be a little bit of water because it was wet when we left, so there was some moisture that will have dripped down the sides, but if there's a lot, then I don't know where it's coming in from. I don't know if that's just what's coming round the edge. It's only been a couple of days, so that could literally just be the water that we put in there for cleaning it that's run down the sides, along with a bit of condensation. I'm just going to quickly mop that out with a dry mop. Right, well, I've mopped that out again. There were 2 mugs full, 500 millilitres. That's half a litre. It's a pint. It's there or thereabouts. I didn't measure it very accurately, but I mopped it out with the mop and bucket and used just a drinking mug to pour it into the drinking mug, and it was clear water. Didn't taste salty, although I didn't really want to drink much of it. So let's have another quick look. Yeah, that's dry. You know, it's damp, but it's okay. So that's kind of dry now. It's not dry, it's still damp, but there's no standing water swimming around in there. I don't know, what do you think? 2 mugs full of water? It's a big tank. It was soaking wet. Could that have just run down the sides, condensate, you know, and pulled in the bottom since we were last here? Don't know. The important thing was that when I was mopping it all out, that I just didn't want to get any nasty, horrible, dirty water on Melissa's beautiful new upholstery. Speaking of the upholstery,
if you remember a few weeks ago in my sewing video, I was borrowing my friend's sewing machine. Unfortunately, she needs to use it, so I bought another sewing machine. Not a Chandlery, sadly. I picked this up really cheap. They're meant to be very strong and very good heavy-duty machines. Unfortunately, because of the age, the top gear, there's like a vertical gear in here, and all the pins on it had sheared off, which apparently is quite a common fault for the when they get old. So I have bought a new one, and I'm going to attempt to replace it, and then means that I can get on with some sewing projects. I've got to do the upholstery in the aft cabin, and I've also managed to buy some Sunbrella, a Spanish version of Sunbrella material to do the stack packs on the boat. So they'll be coming up in a future episode. This is the gear that I've removed, and it should look like this. Never repaired a sewing machine before in my life, and I've been told that by removing this and replacing this, I'll have to do the timing as well, so it could be interesting. It might be a complete fail, but you know, it's worth a go. Somehow I've got to get this little vertical gear, this one, right down, I don't know if you can see, under that shaft there. So that sits under there and then it meshes with this gear. I got it in. And that now turns. So I've got to tighten the set screw. Now I've changed that top vertical gear, I just need to watch a quick video on how to retime the machine because I've fiddled with the shaft. So I need to... Sorry, I'm getting a look from my sister. Yeah, so I need to work out how to do that. So while I'm busy working on this sewing machine, Andy's busy working through a long list of boat jobs. Speaking of which...
Let's have a look at how the fiberglassing is looking. Ooh, look at that. That's it. That's the finish you want. Perfect. I'm completely happy with this. I'm not going to peel off the rest because it's still curing. It's just very, very slightly tacky because it's only been drying overnight. Because believe it or not, I filmed the stuff where I was doing this yesterday, and everything else that you've seen in the episode was filmed way earlier in the week. The magic of television, people. Right, but this is the finish that we want. That's great. So with that done, I'm going to nip back to Ocean Melody and see if these fit around the mast. Here they are. Right, let's have a look then. They fit absolutely perfectly. Obviously they're not even close to being finished. I've got to trim them and route them and shape them and varnish them and all of that lot. But that collar, now obviously, and they'll go flush up against the deck head like that. And then I can just slide the vinyl up to meet it. But that collar will just trim the mast top nicely, won't it? So they'll be like that. They'll be like that. Amazing, huh? I quite like that. But I wanted to bring them back and make sure they fitted properly before spending lots of time sanding and fettling them. Fettling, good word. Well, that's the end of the episode. I think you'll agree that was an absolute mammoth episode. We got so much done. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your likes and for your comments and all of that good stuff. And as always, thanks to our patrons who support us in so many ways. Cheers, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.